Got you. Thank you. All right.
So can we call this meeting to order?
You sure can.
Okay. Yeah. So it is 12:06. I'm calling the Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting to order. It's August 10th of 2023. So roll call. Rene Gonzalez.
Here.
Ilana Rimnigi. Cesar Garay.
Present.
Arturo Dominguez. Ray Rocha.
Present.
Arturo Garcia. Fernando Valdazo.
Here. Present.
Julian Ratnowski. I'm present. Mayra Hernandez.
Present.
Okay, moving on to citizen comments. Do we currently have any citizen comments?
Julian. No, sir.
Okay, moving on to the approval of minutes, July 13th, 2023. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes? I'm sorry?
Baldazo.
Yeah, motion to
Oh,
approve.
do I hear a second?
No second here, President. It had to be on virtual.
Okay, I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to agenda items, action items A, discussion and possible action regarding update from staff regarding the intercity housing incentive policy plan.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Since we have guests here, could we move item, the presentation of the LIP fund for the Small Business Grant Program and 0% interest rate program?
Yeah, we can. So moving on to
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to presentation items, presentation on small business placemaking and access to capital programs through funding allocation from the American Rescue Plan Act.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I may make a correction. The item that was asked to be moved, it's presentation item A on the LIP fund closeout report.
Okay, I may have the wrong agenda up then. That's not on the agenda that I have.
We will send you a copy of the amended agenda right now so that you can have the correct agenda.
Okay.
But yes, we have with us Ms. Sara Saldaña. As you all know, our department has engaged with LIP Fund for 2 consecutive years through the programs that we offer for small businesses on the 0% loan program and the small business grant program. And we have invited her to give a very brief recap on both programs, just to keep the committee informed. Ms. Sara Saldaña, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here. As Ms. Leon said, my name is Sara Saldaña, and I am the Senior Vice President for LIP Fund, a nonprofit community development financial institution. And the purpose of it is to grant loans to business owners that are not able to get funding through normal channels. So first of all, I would like to thank the EDC committee and the city for allowing us the partnership. We did 2 programs that were very, very successful. And I'm going to overview the information, the performance of both of them at a very high level, but I thought it was important, and I appreciate Ms. Miriam giving me the opportunity to do so. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the first slide. And what you see here is that we funded 1.8 million, and this was among 184 recipients. And we had 272 applications that were submitted. And this was, the purpose of this grant was to give capital to business owners to be able to go through the pandemic. And some of them, of course, had to close their doors. Some of them struggle. So this grant allowed them to survive, to keep going. And you might ask yourself, how come there were 272, why 184? Well, there were requirements that each business had to comply. And that's one of the reasons why it was 184. But we depleted the money that was requested, that was granted to us. So one of the things that I will explain in the next slide is that how many, the geographic information. So if I can go to the next slide, and it will be, I'm sure you hear that here at the border in Laredo, the bread and butter is the transportation. But as you can see here on the industries that were funded through this grant, there's diversity. Service was the number one, was the top industry that requested funding. Then below that was transportation, retail, accommodation, and food services. So with this graph, what I would like to point out is that, yes, there is a high demand, right, for our transportation services, but there's also the other one. There's services, there's the real estate, technology. We even had, I remember, a school that requested funding and they were granted. So I think this is important for you to know as an EDC. And one of the things that I can say also that I would like to add is that the small business owners that received the funding, they were very grateful on how the city and the EDC responded very, very rapidly to the need. The next thing that I would like to point out from here is that the majority that received the fund had 2 to 5 employees, and also there were 27%, just to round up, that were self-employed. So we had also a variety of businesses that requested. It was not just solely just one. And as you can see also, Sulphur Partnership was the number one requesting the funding. Then it went to LLCs and corporations and a general partnership. So so with this, I would like to open it up if you have any questions in terms of the grant before I go into the buy down program. And it was very, very successful, if I may add once again.
So the program has closed for now, right?
Yes, sir. The program has closed. That is correct. And it was a success, if I may say.
What was the final number?
1.8 million, sir.
So a total of 268 applications were submitted for that particular program, and they were able to fund 184.
May I go to the next slide? Thank you. So on the next slide, what you will see is a program that the city of Laredo granted, once again, through the participation, the active participation of the EDC. There were instrumentals, you were the ones, actually, I should say you were the ones that backed it up. It's a program that it's been utilized in other cities, in San Antonio, Corpus Christi, Barr, McAllen, Edinburgh, and it's been very successful. So what I have to say about this program is that same thing, it was a success since it was approved. Once it was announced by the city and EDC that it was approved, business owners started to apply, and how this works is business owners go to LitFund, and we had a special portal for them. They go to LitFund and they apply for a loan. They comply with the criteria. It goes through underwriting like any other loan. And once they get approved, the city allocated $217,000 to pay the interest. So all these individuals were getting loans at a 0%, which translates into them keeping the money. That money they were gonna pay on interest, they were able to put it back into their business, do an injection. That's what happened in this case. There were 34 loans that were done through this program. The Dell Foundation allocated $1 million to be used, whatever amount needed to be used for this particular program. And one of the things that I think that you would be interested is that the total of jobs created were 107 out of the 34 loans. And the impact, the jobs retained, 2,372 were retained thanks to you granting, approving that amount to be used to buy down the interest. Another thing is that low to moderate income borrowers were at 62%. We had startups, we had, I believe we had one that was veteran, 8 women applied also and got the funding. So there was it was a diverse group. And like I mentioned, just to give you a perspective how successful it was, when it was launched, when it was approved back in October, right, Arnold? I believe by March, the majority of the funding, except for $10,000, it was depleted. There was such a demand for those funding. The business owners really, truly, they just couldn't believe that was happening. And like I said, how promptly the EDC responded. So this is at a high level. I wanted to come and tell you how the 2 programs worked. They were very successful. We're hoping and to continue the partnership. There is the need. The clients are very, very vocal about needing this type of programs, and they truly, truly appreciate what you've done for them, because there's a study that was done in California, and I don't have the information, and I'll be glad to send it to you. It was at a university in California, and it says that for every dollar that Lit Fund lends, it translates into $14 back into the community. So I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the local business owners, because you are making a difference in the community, in the business community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sara, for your presentation and for the update. I guess we can open it up for questions if any of the committee members have any questions regarding the numbers that were presented.
I do. This is Myra. Is the city looking or programming to give additional funding for the upcoming years, considering that the CARES funding is no longer available?
I'm sorry, Myra, was the question is if we're considering launching a third program?
Yes, with city resources though, not because I believe the CARES program it's done because it was part of COVID.
Yes.
But has the city?
And that's an item that we have on the agenda, and we're gonna briefly share some information and plans that we have for some of the ARPA funding that is still available and that was allocated to our department. And that's gonna be agenda item, presentation item 5B. Well, if no questions if there are no questions from any of the committee members, thank you, Ms. Sara, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with Ms. Sara. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we may proceed with the agenda item. I think you're on mute.
Julian, you're on mute.
On to action items, discussion of possible action regarding update from staff regarding the intercity housing incentive plan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we wanted to bring to your attention and in the packets, and we will go ahead and email you this particular program. It is our understanding that at one point, the Economic Development Advisory Committee put together and presented a proposal for an inner city housing incentive plan. Our department has been given instructions by city manager to follow up on this. I know that we don't have most of the committee members present, but we just wanted to report and let you know that it's an item that we are looking into. We understand that there are some, the idea behind reviewing this program, we're gonna be meeting with departments and with city manager's office to see how we can, I guess, evaluate the other incentive programs that are already in place, such as the NEC, and I know this particular program also makes reference as to additional incentives and fee waivers to promote and enhance inner city housing. So we just wanted to give a brief update that the department has been tasked with following up on this. It is our hope that at the next meeting, we can have a further discussion with all the committee members and with the findings and recommendations that may come forward from other departments and see how we can get this moving. And particularly the funding that might be required for it.
Did we ever reach out to the Laredo Housing Authority? Because I do know they hired, I think they're called HRNA, which was the same firm that was hired by the city of San Antonio to put together their inner city housing policy and incentive policy. And I know they spent quite a bit of money on essentially that entire, not just roadmap, but the framework that we would essentially need. It's already all been paid for and put together.
I've looked at the study, and yes, indeed, the study gives very solid recommendations on how we can move this program forward and how we could implement it. To answer your question, I have had very informal conversations with Jose Ceballos regarding this and other items, but it is our intention to reach out to them again and just fully, evaluate this proposal and see how we can get it aligned with the study that was done. And we have talked about this in the past. The intention of our committee is to also put together a very robust incentive program that can address the many different opportunities that are out there for inner city redevelopment. So yes, the intention is to start getting together with the building department who handles the NEC, maybe have some conversations with the downtown church as well, and reach out to any other stakeholders that are gonna be crucial in the collaboration for this program.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mayor, and this is for developers or individuals who are trying to do rehabilitation of homes? These loans and these grants that are given for not charging, the city not charging, this would be individuals or looking at developers?
It is our intention that it'll be open for both. There's a lot, there are developers that are interested in investing in downtown and inner city, but just like the NEC program, it's not really restricted. But we see that with the NEC program, we see both property homeowners and developers take advantage of it. And it is our intention to come back to the committee with the recommendations that the city will have and also get your advice since, this is part of your, duties and as a committee.
Thank you.
And I wish I could share more information. I think this program was presented at the committee way before my time. If there's any committee members that were involved, and would like to share some additional information, I would absolutely welcome that as well.
Julian, this is Arnold. Is this tied at all to the inner city summit that was held maybe about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
It was man, I think it was more than 2 years ago at this point. This was part of that whole summit. That is correct. Yeah. So the goal of the policy is not centered in the downtown. If I remember correctly, that entire summit was focused on essentially what people typically call the inner city grid system. So it included multiple districts that would fit into the policy.
The way it is written or the way this is being proposed, I will mention that It does mention a lot of, big projects as far as the required number of housing units, that it's more targeted towards developers. But again, it's something that, we're gonna be evaluating. Like I mentioned, the city will come with recommendations as well, because we also feel that, homeowners should take advantage of any and all type of programs that the city is able to offer. But, yeah, this is just a proposed, program at this point.
Unless there's any other discussion or a possible motion, we can move over to item B, discussion with possible action on creating a downtown water infrastructure subcommittee.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and this is, touching base on the last, item that was discussed at last month's meeting regarding, some concerns on the quality of the water in downtown. And we're thankful, for the utility department. We have two representatives joining us today. As you all know, we are during, budget workshops, and the director couldn't join us unfortunately, but, we're very thankful to have, Vivian and Mr. Juan with us. They will be giving us a brief update on some of the tests that was performed. It is my understanding.
We do total coliform testing every month, certain locations and throughout the city and the downtown area as well. So coliform sample comes out negative. There's no coliform, no equalized, no sanitary defects. We do get every once in a while, I'll call it, they have yellow water or brown water in certain areas, and we come in and check. Generally, sometimes there's old pipes and systems that are cast iron. So there is construction going on by Bezar. Sometimes they move the water open and close valves, and that moves that yellow water out, and so it comes loose. So we flush out the hydrant. If we get a call through either, they can call the office, 721-2000 or 311. We get called in, we come in, check the residuals, flush the lines, and check the buildings to see if anything is, or what's going on to make sure that the water is clean.
Last question. If a certain area is experiencing yellow water in their building, would you flush out like the nearest fire hydrant? Yes, could you do that? Right?
Yeah, we can flush out the nearest, well, the first thing we do is flush out the nearest hydrant, but then we still go on, move up and
To a different location.
different locations to bring fresh water into that area.
Okay.
One of the concerns was that, that the water filtration, was that correct, Julia? Would that be the right word for filtration? Systems were dirty, so that it was affecting the inner pipes of buildings that were in the system, and they were gonna check to see if it was the city section or the building section itself. And they get a chance to look at some of those addresses that were looked at.
He said, did not get a list of addresses. I did get one address, from Mr. Garcia, 920 Dorita. Fortunately, when we went to that site, it was closed, there was nobody in, but there is Pecos pipe inside. Everything was replaced, which is a bar and a restaurant and everything, so all that piping was replaced, and our side, I believe I don't know if the main line has been replaced, I'm not sure about that, but when we went, the water was clean. And we sent somebody out actually yesterday just to make sure, and the 900 block of Doride, the water was clean, there was no color, no coloration in it. And then the inspector did actually get to, she didn't find faucet outside, she couldn't find it. But she did put that the water was clean inside as well. And the chlorine levels were good. Outside was, the hydrant was 3.3 and inside was 2.5. It's a good residual also.
And when I have a question about flushing, because it's coming up from other stuff. When you all do flush, what happens to the water? Where is it sent?
To the drain, the street, goes to the storm drain and into the river.
So just food for thought, I was in another programs, and so some of the plans obviously for the city is somebody starting a tree farm, and then I had meetings with multiple nonprofits, and they want to start gardens and greenery. The challenge is irrigation, water. And so now that you're saying flush, when you all flush, do you have program timing, or is it, oh, the water's not good, let's flush it out? Is there any communication between maybe some of these agencies that want to start thinking South Texas Food Bank, a regional food bank, for example? They're starting gardens, and so, but the number one concern and challenge is irrigation. So why don't we look at the city and see if there's any water usage or lack of, or that it's flushed out? Maybe you all can send your pipes or your trucks and pick up that water and then recycle by starting your trees or your farming.
So it's a bit of both. There's like what's the.
But I think it will be inefficient. The cost of transporting the water, getting it together,
Well,
and
that's not a big expense. That's the expense of the agency.
or like an agency go and hook up.
For
Yeah.
farmers, because I've met with farmers,
Yeah, that may just-
university would have gardening, and we're thinking irrigation and conservation, and so what other mechanisms are out there that we could consider, and it's just the reciprocity, it's using resources, I mean, not be resources for anybody else, but maybe resources for us, can we use that? Just food for thought. And the other one, it was just Iturbide, because I think I recall that, Ms. Cabello had mentioned that they were gonna do spot checks throughout the downtown area. Am I wrong, Julian?
Yeah, that is correct. And if I can, may I ask a follow-up question? Because I've been contacting the businesses there, and I'm being told that there are still, if they remove their filter, they get particulates moving through.
Also depends on downtown area has very old pipes in the private side, so if they have galvanized pipes, they're gonna have.
So 920 Iturbide there was a new development.
Yeah.
That's a whole new building with new pipes from the stub out. Oh, sorry, not from the stub out, but all the way to the main line.
From after the meter into the whole building, that's all new pipe.
That's a whole brand new pipe
Yeah.
built in 2019.
And I think that the city had outsourced a contract for research and assessment or inventory. I think Loreto Street or something like that, and they were looking at building vacancies and occupancies and buildings having units, and not the buildings vacant, just a unit, et cetera. Maybe that's something to review whenever that research is done, to see how that impacts on the water quality, because if you have majority of downtown vacant, they go back,
Yeah.
there's no water, you can say, like, you need to go it somewhere, and so.
Yeah, so
That
that,
could be causing also the,
so that inventory is about to be finished. It is my understanding that it will be turned in, by the end of this fiscal year, which is September. And yes, it is our intention to, come up with the different, I guess, uses of it. The main purpose of the inventory was to, take into account an ordinance that it's gonna go into effect for vacant building registry with the city. But there's obviously, several number of initiatives that we can do, and I think that can be one of them. And if I may recommend, Mr. Chairman, maybe those are topics that that could be added for future meetings. In case this is something that we can, engage in, including, some of the opportunities that Mayra just mentioned with the water flushing.
well,
Yeah, that would-
and because one of the strategic plans is obviously to rehabilitate our downtown area, so we're already seeing some concerns or challenges to start navigating to move us forward.
Chair, also, one of the challenges that he mentioned was if a building's closed, they can go inside to check, to make sure that it's not their part. One of the, I guess maybe Laredo Main Street or one other organization can work with them to say, we're gonna do an audit of this block. Will you please, from this hour to this hour, will you please, building owner, will you please, open your buildings? And that may be something that we need to look at, the communication aspect of it all. Because like, they're checking the outside, but it might be the inside that's linked, but if it's closed, they can't tell you. From what it seems, you can't tell anyone that they saw it, and,
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and then
I agree.
back to partnerships, it's a private-public partnership with a nonprofit. It's a water department or utility department can only do so much, but if we partner with a nonprofit sector, they may be able to do things that you all can't. And then obviously the profit sector, the business sector, then can allow us to see how we can better support them. So I think it's that reciprocity going back again. Everybody doing their part so we can move forward.
And at the end of the day, this is how programs and initiatives, work out, and they're successful by collaborating with the different entities and stakeholders. Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if maybe we should come back to the item regarding the possible creation of a subcommittee.
Yeah, I put it on here so that, we can have a subcommittee created to continue on with this item because I've already reached out to those same two business, or one's a business, one's a resident, and they're saying that they're still having the issue. But if the city can't get in there, that's obviously the issue of why. So I'm willing to sit on this subcommittee. I'm not sure if anyone else is willing to or would like to.
What would be the role of the subcommittee?
I'm sorry?
What would be the role or discussion of the subcommittee?
My perspective is obviously, even though this is a water issue, to me, this is an economic issue since these businesses and residents are having to spend money on these water filters that they're having to replace. Typically these water filters you replace every 1 to 3 months, and they're replacing it every 2 weeks. So the motive, I think, would be to investigate and figure out what exactly is going wrong and what solutions we can possibly recommend.
Can I have the addresses of these locations? Yeah, that we can start.
Yeah, we would like to make, a possible solution.
Filters are on the
Yeah.
private side, so anything after the meter, that would be the resident thing, so we need to check.
Yeah, that's.
Well, I think before we create a subcommittee, we can give Mr. Rios some addresses, and maybe like at 11 a.m. or at noon, a period where most of the businesses are open, so he can go check those specific locations. Depending on those results, then we move forward to maybe creating a subcommittee. That's a possible solution.
So I don't know the address off the top of my head of the other one, but I think you mentioned Arturo Garcia. It's where there's a restaurant in there, and then there's also a tenant in there, like a residential tenant. The other one is House of Whiskey.
Well, we can send them to Miriam, and Miriam can send them to
It's there at House of Whiskey and on Victoria Street. I know that there is a flusher, an automatic flusher at Heinrich, at that area, that is flushing the water out. That's
It's internal.
So I guess at this point,
If this is construction, the old pipe's still there, so that's why they sell the automatic flusher that keep the water moving. So, because if it's closed off in certain areas, it's gonna stay stagnant and it's gonna start turning out. So they install the automatic flusher. But we can still keep going and keep checking that every, maybe on a weekly basis, send an inspector out there, make sure that because everything, the water's still fine and.
Is it possible that the automatic flusher might not be working maybe?
Sometimes they have to turn them off in
Okay.
case, that would be with the distribution system. They can automatically turn them on and off. In case there's-
Did we inspect properties further down Itupirda? I heard that asked, but it's a little hard to hear from here because I was told by other bar owners down the street that they all have the same issue. Like it seems to be all the way down Itupirda Street.
may I make a recommendation? Maybe we can put together a list of different addresses that our department can work in collaboration with the utilities department to start scheduling some of this, visits.
Okay.
We get the addresses through the committee?
We get the addresses through you, and then our department will make sure that we share that with utilities and have maybe even a possible schedule that we can share.
Results for next.
And results for the next meeting, if you're able to,
Yeah,
take
we
care
have-
of all the addresses that are provided,
And how many addresses?
depending how many addresses.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can,
That's right.
then, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah,
We
I
have
think
four
we should do
inspectors, we have,
block 1 this week, block 2.
Right.
yeah.
And just do randoms. And by the time we have our next meeting, that's already 4 random inspections that we can do.
basically, they're all basically in the downtown area, we can actually do them for.
Mhm.
Follow up, not officially finish them, we can do them all. How often do you have a meeting?
Once a month.
Every month, yeah, but next month we'll have more than.
Yeah.
If there's no other discussion or motions, moving on to presentation item B, update on proposed small business placemaking and access to capital programs through funding allocation from the American Rescue Plan Act.
Yes, and I apologize, but I will have to excuse myself. As you all know, we have budget workshops, but I will let Arnold take care of the item. Just very briefly on the amounts that we are gonna be working with. Our department has been allocated $2.8 million. And I will let Arnold give a very brief, I guess, recap on the programs that we are gonna be presenting to you at the next meeting.
All right, thank you, Miriam. So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, as Miriam said, we did have leftover ARPA funds. We've been having internal meetings with staff to go over where the money was initially sent for the ARPA allocations, how much was spent, and then to kind of get, I mean, we're on a deadline to spend these funds because they are federal monies. So our attempt was to allocate them in areas that the money could go out quickly / effectively. So again, we wanted to partner with Lift Fund and do the same program that you heard about earlier. We're planning to do a part 3 of those. So there would be 2 programs again. One would be a grant program, free money. The other one would be the buy down program. And we have enough to cover both of those. And then we'd like to do another part 3 with Laredo College for the workforce development skills retraining program that we've done 2 times before. And I think that would be a good opportunity since we're doing these the 3rd time. And now we have the committee ahead of that process. Perhaps take some recommendations from the committee as we put these together to get an idea of maybe what we can focus on differently, that we, maybe do something different than we did the first 2 times, narrow it down, filter it through to get it down to a fine-tuned program that's not just a cookie cutter of the one before. Although it's following the same outline, it's not the same parameters, right? Maybe we can get a little bit more creative. For example, with the workforce, are there other industries that we want to target? Are there industries we want to leave out? So that's where we're at right now in the process. But we do have the money to do these programs. We're just at the point right now where we're developing the plan going forward to implement them.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
does this mirror what they've already done with the program that she was discussing?
Yes.
And so when you say make, at least it seemed very successful. So are you looking at, there's some things that weren't successful that you're looking at, or you're just looking at renewing the whole process, saying, find the holes that we can?
Well, a lot of things have changed since the pandemic. A lot of businesses got the help, right? And some got left out. So we're looking at maybe, is there a way that this is the most effective way? Can we do it again? Or is there something that we can add?
Those that didn't get, that didn't get the program.
Right.
And,
Okay, no,
sorry, and the 2.84, that's federal dollars coming to the city. And so it's a loan that disappears, it's a disappearing loan, or it's a loan that they pay back at a certain, at no interest, or?
It'll be at 0%. So the city will be using the federal amount to buy down the interest. The capital will still come from the Lift Fund.
So they get, whoever the loan pays, if I receive a loan, I pay the federal government.
No, you pay Lift Fund. We're using the federal government money to buy your interest down to 0%.
And that's how you make a 0 loan.
That's how you make a 0 loan. And to Myra's original point, fortunately and unfortunately, we're at a point where we have to still use federal dollars because they still exist. Why not use them?
Why not?
But eventually that money will run out.
And also, would there be grants as well?
There will be grants as well.
And probably people that did not qualify the first time, we can notify them and say, hey, maybe you have your work paperwork in order now.
Yes. And that's another thing we're looking at, like, can we, and then there's nothing excluding it, but say, hey, for these businesses that had 0.1, 0.2, can they do 0.3 again? Why not, right? But do we want to do that or not? So those are.
I think the money should go people that never got it or didn't qualify the first time around, and then if there's left over, then,
Yeah.
or, yeah.
Yeah, that would be an opportunity because those are people that may have missed it by a certain.
Yeah, they didn't,
They didn't file paperwork or they didn't have something with it, and now they can meet it. So I think the introduction should be to them first.
Yeah, yeah.
That's an idea that we got.
So this is good. So this is kind of like what the discussion wants to be.
and that's what something that I was gonna propose, already had written down, so I'm glad
Alright.
it came out, yeah.
Yeah, so those are two programs that we're gonna do. Miriam, well, actually, that's three. So it's the grant, the loan, and then the workforce development program. And then the other one Miriam is proposing now is, I don't know too much about this. You know, I'd have to defer to Miriam a little bit more on this, but it's an outdoor space program to expand outdoor spaces and support ongoing recovery and resiliency. My guess is, Mr. Chairman, is it's going maybe in the way of the parklet, maybe. I'm not sure, but to me, that's what that sounds like, to expand their outdoor spaces. When the pandemic originally hit, that was a drive for the city to say, hey, move the business outside so you mitigate the spread. People are outside, they're not inside. So this, since it is COVID money again, we do have to restrict it. Gotta be COVID related in some way, shape or form. And like this, we can justify that portion of it.
Okay,
40.
so,
Yeah.
it's up first.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman, I'm done with my presentation.
Yes.
Any questions?
if there's no questions, motion to adjourn?
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.